The new Bond?
The new Bond movie is about. Yeah, that's a highlight of my week.
Did you like it?
Oh, I thought it was awesome. Yeah, it's the best one I've seen.
Are you a Bond guy? I mean, do you like Bond?
Not really. Nah, but these
Yeah.
great stunts, good car. All the car chases were done. All they were great. Um, no CGI.
Yeah. Bond's tough for me. Are you a Bond guy, Wick?
No, not really. Not not my
Bond
cup
is
of
tough
tea.
for me. I tried to go back and watch all the way to the beginning. And I was like, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to go all the way to the beginning of this. And so I did some Sean Connery um, Bond stuff. And man, I just thought it was really boring. I mean, the action's not really the action that you're used to now. It's a very watered down action. There's a lot of like plots that you don't really, they're just stupid. You're not sure who somebody is. And I was told that you need to start with the Bond that you're familiar with. So maybe I need to go back and start at Roger Moore and go forward. That was advice I was given. Don't go back to people you don't really, have a connection to. Go to the Bond you remember from your generation and then watch them from there. And so I might try that. It's just, I don't know what it is about spy stuff I'm just not into. I'm just not
I
into
don't really
spy
like
stuff.
them. I can't think of too many I
Well,
like.
I'm into spy
Daniel
stuff,
Craig's made the
but
best ones.
I'm into spy stuff,
Yeah.
but that's just not even close to realistic.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's
yeah,
some of
no,
it
it's not
too. It's a little
realistic.
silly.
Well,
Yeah. Um, yeah, but they've had several since Roger Moore, but Roger Moore's the one I remember, and that's the advice I was told. Go back to the one you remember and
this lighting is terrible.
march forward. But I'm kind of weird, we've discussed that. But I may try to do that. But the Sean Connery stuff was boring to me. I mean, very dated, I guess. Does that make sense? It just felt very dated anyway. But anyway, Thanksgiving's coming up. You guys got any major plans?
I'm working, so no.
Oh, y'all are
Mm.
open.
Yeah.
What are you
That
doing,
makes sense,
Scott?
though.
Anything fun?
No. Eat a lot of food.
Okay.
Watch
I ate a
football.
bunch of food today. We had it at Corey's mom's house,
Yeah.
so I indulged.
Yeah. It's a nice once a year meal. That's about all I want to see it though, believe it or not. I think it's God, it's so much. You know what I mean?
Usually,
And it's just like I'm glad it's once a year,
we've been
I
going
couldn't do
out
that on
the
regular.
last several Thanksgivings.
Oh really? My parents
Yeah,
do that.
usually
They go out.
we've been to the old mill twice.
Hmm. Yeah, my parents
My
do.
aunts and uncles come down and cousins. Old mill's packed out. I mean, we waited an hour
Yeah.
before we sat down. And
We'll be hosting Thanksgiving this year. We buy a Popeyes pre-made turkey and do that every year. It's
from
already
Popeyes?
yeah, from Popeyes. It's great, dude. It's great. I mean, you pick it up, it's like $40. I think they're like 12 pounds and they've been deep fried and then they're vacuum sealed and then they're cooked. So all you gotta do is just throw it in the oven for like maybe an hour and it's ready to go. It's great, man. It's been really successful for us lately. So that's what we do. I don't see a need for somebody to be in a kitchen for 7 hours to get ready to feed people. Like to me, just everybody should be enjoying each other, and you should get to the point. You know what I mean? Which is to have the meal and everybody talk around the table. This whole thing about being there 2 hours early, waiting for stuff to get done, and I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel. I just feel like not only is it a little unfair, but it drags on, and not that that's a problem, but it drags on, and it's a little bit. Everybody seems to get more engaged when they're around the table eating, and so I would just rather like get to the point. Here's the turkey and everything. Let's just sit down and have a talk about whatever's on our minds. And to me, it's a little bit better that way than just waiting and people showing up and everybody's sitting and waiting, and then finally it comes. There's a lot of pressure on the people that are doing the dinner and stuff, so it's just easier. But yeah, Popeyes, man, turkeys, they're awesome. You can do the same thing at Kroger. I think Kroger does a Thanksgiving meal. But anyway, um, it's been a busy week, hasn't it? Been a busy, really busy couple of weeks. I wanted to talk about something that we didn't get to talk about last week, which was Astroworld and everything that was going on there, and kind of get your opinions on it. I know there's some conspiracy theories on which I try to catch up with. Wick has read a little bit on it. Scott, you may have too. But um, first of all, did you guys see video? Did you did you really jump into the chaos of Astroworld and what happened there, or did you kind of stay away from it?
I saw a couple of videos of like people yelling at the stage
Yeah.
that people had,
I
people were down.
I didn't know anything about it till y'all brought it up.
Yeah. Were you able to look at anything on that, Scott, or
I asked
made
about
you
it
familiar?
kinda, and read a
Yeah.
little. I know 8 people. I read an article, and then I know what 8 people died, right?
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
up to 10
From
now,
what I
Rick.
could-
Is that right?
From what I read,
I think there's
it
been
didn't seem
more.
nearly as bad as Woodstock '99.
Well, I don't know if there were deaths. That's okay. So that's a great way to
Well-
segue into this whole thing, because we just had the anniversary of Woodstock '99, which oddly enough has rekindled some of those bands' livelihoods. A lot of those bands have gotten popular because of that documentary. But in our generation, we had '99, we had Woodstock '99, which, as many know, listen, I'm going to be somebody before we get into Astroworld that's going to tell you that I think that's a bad scheduling conflict on a Sunday to have Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine, Metallica, and Red Hot Chili Peppers. There's just something about that lineup that seems like you're going to have some problems, especially when you're having a lot of the issues that they were having at a lot of the merchant tents, not having enough water, ATM machines being broke, water's being $5, all that stuff. It seemed like tension was already rising there. Do y'all know anybody who went to Woodstock '99? I don't think either one of you went. Did you?
No.
Yeah.
God no.
The documentary is very good though, if you get a chance to watch it. But that was
But
kind
I
of like
don't
our
think anybody
generation.
died, though, did they?
I don't think anybody died. There's a
No.
lot of rapes.
There's one guy that died. That was his brother was telling the
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
yeah
He was-
parallel
Okay.
to the whole
Okay.
story.
Yeah,
He was
that-
telling
Yep,
his
you're
story.
right. You're absolutely right. Not 10
There
or
was people
8 or
getting
whatever,
raped.
but there were a lot of people, a lot of women that were raped. That was
It
bad.
was Lord of the
That was
Flies.
bad. That was kind of
Over 3 days.
Yeah,
They
it
just
was-
went Lord of the Flies syndrome
Yeah.
kicked in.
very chaotic. Yeah, no control. I do blame that a little bit on the scheduling. I do blame that on the people who held it, the promotions. That, I mean, any of us in 1999 could have looked at that lineup and said this is a bad idea. I don't think it's just as a side note, Limp Bizkit gets a lot of blame for it. I think what you scheduled in '99 when you scheduled Limp Bizkit in 1999. I don't think you were thinking that they were going to be peaceful. I mean, basically, you're outside of Rage Against the Machine or any of these bands even political. Not really. It kind of spits in the tradition of Woodstock, honestly. And I think you kind of have to be smart about your scheduling and realize that was a really, really bad idea. And I don't think that they deserve the full blame. I mean, Red Hot Chili Peppers, as the sweethearts of so many people, and they were playing Fire when they're doing a bonfire, and they're making an excuse that they were asked by Jimi Hendrix's sister to play it. Just stupid stuff. You don't play Fire when a bonfire is going because Jimi Hendrix's sister asked you to. She probably asked you to do a song. You chose Fire. And they kind of get away. Nobody really says anything about it, So I guess in correlation with Astroworld, what we're talking about is Travis Scott, the rapper, who, it's funny to me, and it's not because it's rap, but it's funny to me who is popular and names I've never heard in my life. Have you guys ever heard of Travis Scott before this?
No.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit. Have you heard about him in a major way though?
I knew he was huge.
I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was either. I mean, I'm thinking Travis Scott. First thing I thought about kind of sounded like a country singer's name. So I was like, this is really weird. And it was in Houston, and all this stuff. I'm like, that's just strange, So anyway, for those who aren't aware, we're talking about the Astroworld catastrophe, which was basically a concert by a rapper named Travis Scott, who had way too many people booked at what used to be, I believe, an amusement park that was closed down, or a parking lot to amusement park or something, where he had plenty of room. He apparently has been doing this for a couple of years, where he throws this huge concert. Drake comes, Kanye West comes and does shows and all this other stuff, and it's a big event for rap, I would assume, and large crowds. And people got trampled, and people got killed, and Travis Scott didn't stop the concert. He continued to make things even more difficult for people who were trying to rescue those that were in the audience by doing what he calls raging, which is, I guess, what we used to call, mosh pits, and getting everybody stirred up. I've been beating a lot on it and watching the videos, and way too many people. I mean, if you look at it, it's like sectioned off. It's like taking 100,000 people, okay, and sectioning those 100,000 people off in 25,000 increments and a box of 4. So 25,000, 25,000, 25,000, 25,000, and then expecting the 25,000 to be able to coexist in the same spot and nobody hurt anybody else. And the people in the middle of that 25,000. Now you imagine 25,000 fits into what I used to call the Lakewood Amphitheater. I don't even know what it's called anymore, but that's 27,000 in that place. So imagine yourself in the middle of that and no exit for a lot of people's heads, and trying to figure out how to do that. And a lot of people got trampled in that situation, and he continued to sing. Hard to make excuses for this guy, right?
Yeah, and he had like a history of like trying coaxing people on stage and like drawing them forward. He'd done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And
causing issues, yeah. Well,
and also apparently he's apparently a Satan worshiper, and it was a sacrifice.
So
yeah, we're going to talk about that.
To die is what people think.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. And to be honest, I don't know. I'm pretty gullible, but he does continue to sing as he's watching people loaded into an ambulance of a golf cart. He doesn't tell people get out of the way. He doesn't stop the music. He doesn't say, hey, we've got a serious issue over here with this ambulance. He just says, hey, what's the ambulance there for? Hey, everybody, put your middle finger in the air and jump around harder, because we're going to play even harder. And it made things very difficult for those who were trying to help. Pretty evil. I mean, is he saying words? God, I don't know. I mean, is that an evil thing to do? Yeah. And I would imagine he's going to pay the price for it. I don't know if this ruined your career, but it's certainly going to be close. Yeah, sure. I mean, his offer was to pay for the funerals, but I mean, it's probably pocket change compared to what he made at the concert, I'm sure. He probably made millions from ticket sales. But apparently he's somebody, like Wick said, that kind of pushes the envelope, gets the crowd riled up, and he's all into chaos, and he wants people to break into his concerts and not pay. Why he has a money gate there, then I'm not sure, but it's funny how you're basically kind of preaching to people about how you want them to climb over the walls and sneak into your concert and screw pay in, but yet you got a paywall.
Travis Scott and Drake hit with $750 million lawsuit.
Yeah. There'll be other people, I would imagine, listed in that, but it's because I guess Drake helped him put it on. But this reminds me a little bit about the Great White Club situation. Do you guys remember that club burned down with Great White?
Yeah,
and people were trapped inside.
Were stacked up in the door, everybody trying to get out.
And the door, man, that is an image.
Huh?
That is an image that absolutely goes up my back. People dead in that doorway. They're stacked.
Mm-hmm.
But what was interesting was that, in kind of doing a cross reference of that, there was some guy on I believe it was Reddit, who did a study on what actually happens in those situations, which was extremely interesting. And basically, you don't get trampled at a concert. You don't get, when we say trampled, and when they use that phrase, your automatic thought is somebody fell to the ground, people stood on it. That's not necessarily how all this happens. What happens is you basically have this rush of people that come from behind you and push you against somebody
forward.
else, which pushes you into the, and then it continues to go until it meets a stopping point. And when it meets that stopping point, the pressure on your body gets more and more. So what happens is a lot of people will get the pressure on their front and back. They're not breathing clean. They're not breathing fresh air. They're kind of like suffocating almost because they're getting body heat from the people around them. And then they begin to not be able to focus. They begin to pass out, and then they begin to slide down, and they become a part of the shockwave of the crowd moving. So you have a shockwave that moves. And they say what you're supposed to do is when you're in that situation and you feel like you can't do anything, wherever the crowd goes, you want to go with it. When the shockwave meets a point of a choke point where it can't move any further is where everything gets really, really dangerous. So what you need to do is try to move with the shockwave, but move against it out, not with it. But you want to kind of move to your left if it's moving kind of forward, kind of move to the point where you can get away from it. Because they said once the shockwave starts, the body's moving, that's a really dangerous place to be. And also once somebody falls down, everybody falls down on top of them and begins to stack, which is what was happening in the Great White concert when they try to escape. But it's a really scary scenario to think about being in. I don't know. I don't like crowds. Are you guys crowd people? Do you like do crowds bother you?
No, not really.
Yeah, I don't think Scott would be bothered by crowds.
I don't like big crowds, like festival crowds. It's too much.
Okay, so me either.
Yeah.
I've kind of grown out of that. I think there's just too much that can go wrong. I'm relying on too many people to do the right thing. And I just am like, I don't like a crowd situation. But kind of what happened in the Great White Club is people who don't know about that, there were some people that went to a concert, Great White concert. Yes, people still do that. Inside the club, they had some fireworks that went off that the pyrotechnic guy was not looking out for the clearance.
Because that's what you want to do in a club.
Lot of styrofoam.
Pyrotechnics in a club. Bad idea to begin with.
Number one. Catches on fire. A lot of soundproofing and whatnot is very flammable. Goes up. Black smoke throughout a very dark club at night. People can't see where they got to go to get out. Everybody rushes for the front door. And people begin to stack on each other. Somebody falls, somebody goes over them and falls, somebody goes over them and falls. And then there's actually a picture of a stack of bodies where they're basically their arms and heads are hanging out the front door, stacked on each other like logs, and they're dead because the choke point was too small. So if you try to get people side by side getting out and they reach a point where it's not wide enough, you begin to have that choke point, and that's what happened in the club. There's one guy who survived it. I don't know if you've ever heard about this. There's one guy who survived it. So when you're in a crowd like that and you fall, you have to fall on your side in a fetal position. You don't fall on your stomach. You fall on your side so that you continue to get oxygen into your lungs. Oh my God, this guy fell on his side. On the bottom of the stack, he falls on his side. Immediately, people begin to fall on top of him.
Is this Astroworld or the White Lion?
This is white. This is at the Great White show.
Oh, Great White. Yeah, I was going to say the one guy that survives probably the door
guy. He is at the edge of the door.
Right.
He says everything's black. He knows where the exit is. He gets to the exit. He falls down, and it's just he cannot get back up at that point because so many people have fallen over him, knocking him back down. He can't get up. He falls to his side. He feels the body is burning on top of him. He feels people dying on top of him, people screaming. By the time he's laying there and he is able to feel somebody walk by and touch his hand, like with a boot, and he starts moving his hand around, and it's a fireman. And this is after the club had burned down to the ground. And he's like, "We've got somebody alive here." They pull him out. He's got a couple of burns on his legs, and it turns out the only reason he survived, the people on top of him took the flames for him. But the only reason he survived was because he landed on his side. So I say, anytime you're in that situation, and for people who go to concerts from here on out, these things happen. Remember that if you go to the ground, you need to go to your side. Do not go down on your stomach. Do not go down on your back. Go down in a fetal position because it protects your lungs. It protects your ability to breathe. Because once you land on your stomach, or once you land on your back, you're going to suffocate. People are going to step on you not realizing you're there, and they're not going to be able to get you up. And so that's how a trample kind of happens. But it starts with you being trapped and not being able to really get any air in, and then you basically starting to pass out, and then you being a limp body in a group that seems to just kind of disappear. And then that's when the group is moving. Because when you remove yourself in a pressure point like that, somebody fills the space immediately. So you drop, somebody's going to be pushed from behind to fill the spot you left. And then it's hard to get you up because of the pressure on the person behind you. That crowd was too large. They were sectioned off in two largest sections. I can't imagine, guys, being in the middle of 25,000 people in the center, because there were people in the center of those crowds, not around the edges, not around the barricades where you could jump over and say, screw this, I'm going home, but in the middle, and feeling all of that pressure coming from the back and all of the stoppage coming from the front, and people saying, I can't go any further. I can't imagine being in the middle of that large a group of people and what it does to you and how bad it scares you. But there are people that were going down, and he is singing and he's rapping and doing his thing and not stopping the show, not checking on anyone. He sees the ambulance. They go golf cart ambulances, but they have medics. They said the paramedics weren't even trained properly. They weren't even giving correct CPR to people. So that's going to be a thing. But they had these little golf cart ambulances that were going out into the crowds trying to clear people away so they could grab them. And Travis Scott sees this.
Just kept going.
And just keep singing. And people feel like now we're in a world of conspiracies. Probably one day find out majority of them are true, even though they're so unbelievable. But basically their conspiracy is that, he's a Satanist and that this was a sacrifice.
Well,
and that he has a lot of satanic imagery. I couldn't really find it, but I don't know him and I don't know where to look. But that he's definitely somebody that's into the darker arts of things and chaos and I guess negative things. And that a lot of people feel like he kind of egged this to happen and wanted it to happen. He's going to be at least $500,000 poorer from it, if he even has that. Of course, I'd be curious if they have insurance on that show. Some concerts have insurance, and
It would have to, I would imagine.
they would probably have to have it.
Mm-hmm. It would be a bonding, right?
That would pay. Yeah, that would pay. But they'll do civil suits. There'll be civil suits left and right.
Well, it kind of grew out of this strange theory about the Pearl Jam show, I think in 2002, where 8 people died in I can't remember where that occurred. It was, let me look it up real quick.
So this is a Pearl Jam show. I didn't even know about this, really.
It was a Pearl Jam show in 2002. It was the binaural album had just came out, and there were 8 people killed at that show. And apparently, if you look at the binaural album cover, it's these 2 red, kind of foggy circles with a golden center. That's the album cover. and apparently an image very similar to that was being projected on the stage that night.
Yeah, this is in Sweden.
Sweden, yeah.
Because they're
Yeah.
trying to sell their album.
No, this was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this was
in
on
2000.
the Travis Scott stage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And apparently he was wearing at some point somebody photographed him wearing a Pearl Jam shirt from that tour, which is kind of weird because that's like after their peak. So
that is weird.
Yeah.
I mean, you would probably find a handful of people that would even know that album even came out. Honestly, I mean, Pearl Jam's been out
2002. It's out of
yeah.
their,
I mean, listen, Pearl Jam. I know I get blasted. I'm not a Pearl Jam guy, but they're not mainstream anymore. So I would think that really hardcore fans know about this album. I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know. And then a lot of people say, look, the stage looked like a portal to hell. I mean, it's covered in flames. That
was the thing. They were saying like the Pearl Jam album cover is a portal to hell, but which is stupid because they're not really a part of the Satanic Panic crowd.
No,
I mean, sound like he somehow wanted to recreate the events of that concert. I mean,
that's what they were saying.
Tie to it.
Yeah,
and they were saying like now the same amount of people died, but I think more people died at the Pearl Jam show.
Now I got 10. I heard it was 8, but then now I just read 10 people died at Astroworld.
Yeah, it is 10 now. 2 more have died from the hospital. 8 dead in the Pearl Jam show.
8.
Yeah, 8. You don't want to believe an artist would want this to happen. I mean,
I don't
we like
think
to believe that.
I don't think
artists we look up to
I think he's insanely irresponsible.
Yeah, maybe didn't want it to happen, but insanely responsible is a good way to characterize it. There are some people that get off on chaos.
Yeah,
I've married a couple. They get off on chaos, and they enjoy the chaos around them. And he may have been one of those people. There's also a lot of power in creating a surge or a riot. There's a lot of power in that.
To put it in perspective, I mean, Pearl Jam debated not ever playing live again after that.
Yeah, there's a lot of bands who have had someone killed, same situation, maybe trampled. And a lot of them have either broken up or somebody left the band because they just had a hard time dealing with it.
Yeah,
it's common in these situations when it happens that it really makes a band stop and think about what they're doing.
And I know there's a video
and a lot of times they get over
at a Pearl Jam show where Eddie Vedder stops the show and points to a guy causing chaos in the crowd, and they say, get him out right now. And like points to get in. The security comes and removes the guy because he's trying to start.
Well, now it'll come. And now a lot of it'll come down to what's the artist's responsibility in those situations, and he may not have noticed what was going on at the beginning, but he surely did notice when it got serious, and his response was to make the concert go harder. I mean, he dropped harder beats. I mean, I listened to it. I watched it. I mean, he definitely picked up the tone of hardness and got the crowd really going and jumping. And I don't know. I think in that situation, you act very differently. A responsible person or a normal person says, hey, let's chill out for a second. We've got something serious going on here. Everybody just calm down. If there's something going on around you, back up a step. Everybody back up a step or 2 steps. Let's give each other room to breathe. If you see somebody on the ground, help them get up. I mean, I've been at concerts where the people have said that, where bands have said, hey, if somebody's on the ground, pick them up. You guys, take a step back, slow the music down till you guys take a step back, and we'll continue until everybody's safe. I've been to shows that had that happen, but this is a rather large crowd, man. I mean, we're talking over 100,000 people, and there was a guy on. A lot of this got started because there's this guy that said that he went. Now he posted this on Reddit 4 years ago. I'm a very avid Reddit fan. Read a lot of Reddit stuff. Anyway, 4 years ago, this guy posted that he went to a Travis Scott concert and was tripping. And he said that as he's listening to the music, he sees Travis Scott for who he really is, which is a demon. And he says, I'm telling you guys, I know I was tripping, but something opened my eyes to the fact that I saw evil come out of him and enter people in the crowd. I know I'm tripping. I know I'm crazy.
Well,
but
that
I'm
sentence
telling you
has
guys,
to. That sentence just kind of has to stop after. I know I'm tripping.
I know I'm tripping. But he said, I'm watching evil come out of this guy and enter people in the crowd. And I'm seeing the crowd get more intense. And I left because it was getting crazy. That was 4 years before this. And now he's going back and saying, read what I wrote back, 4 years ago. This guy's got something going on with him. I'm telling you.
Still with the qualifier, though. Let's be honest
where
about this. The guy was on acid.
Yeah. And that's probably where a lot of the conspiracy stuff comes from.
Let's not give that any credit. I've
No,
seen
I'm not.
some crazy shit
not.
when
I'm not, but I'm saying that this is somebody who said, hey, go look at this from 4 years ago. That does probably feed into a lot of the rumor that starts to happen. And so everybody's like, well, this guy's experienced tripping. He saw demons. So he must be a demon, I mean, it's crazy. I feel terrible for the people that were there. I know that a young kid was killed. 6 maybe. Stop taking your kids to concerts like that. I mean,
or stay in the back.
You know what? It's not. Yeah, or stay where it's safe. I mean, listen. I think kids need. I would never. Listen, I debate taking my kids to a Peppa Pig thing because the kids go nuts for that stuff. I think there are places for kids. They're not. And I mean, I've gone to horror movies before where somebody brought their kids. You know what I mean? And you go,
I can't imagine taking a
doing?
6-year-old.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. The only reason I would think that someone would bring their 6-year-old kid was because they couldn't find a babysitter and they wanted to go.
What a drag that would be at a concert.
Well, here's my thing.
It's like, why would you even want that responsibility? Why?
I have 2 kids.
Apparently, they didn't care because he got killed, so they were up in the crowd, right?
I got a 6 and 8-year-old. I can have tickets to Jimi Hendrix returning from the dead. I can't find a babysitter for my kids. I don't go. That's just part of being an adult, right? I mean, you're right in what you're saying, Scott. That's probably what did happen. But I'm saying, look, part of being an adult, part of being a parent is you don't get to do all the cool stuff you did when you were young. And if you just miss out on it, guess what? You just miss out on it. When you decide to, to procreate children or people, you just make that decision to give up some things in your life. And you're right, and probably that's what happened. Somebody had a babysitter that canceled and they took their kid because they wanted to go that bad. But now their kid's dead. And that's not to shame the parents. It's just people need to think about it. You got to think about these things. I mean, to think that a kid was there is so terrible, man. I mean, to think that a kid died from suffocation in a crowd. Oh man, my kid being swept away from me in a crowd and being taken away from me. I don't even know how it happened. I don't even know how this happens. I don't even know how a kid ends up there. I don't know how a kid gets swept away in a crowd. I don't even know why you take a kid to a concert. Unless you need them to drive you home and they're old enough. That's a good reason. But, 6 years old is just crazy.
I was in the womb. I went to an Elvis concert in the womb.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it was nothing wrong with that. It was a Vegas show. Everybody's in their seats.
That's fantastic. I think that makes you special for sure.
I'm special.
But should you have, as a baby, been taken into the orchestra pit of crazy women and Elvis in the 50s? Probably not. Probably would have been a bad idea.
I know. They're not going to. Not with.
But people acted.
They were in the back. It was just
a Vegas show setting. Yeah. People tend to take care of each other.
Old Elvis. So it was the year he died. So.
Oh yeah. I'm sure he still put on a great show, the King. Yeah, so it's a sad situation. We were going to touch on it last week, and we got carried away talking about sexiest men. That happens to us sometimes.
That happens when you talk about sexy men.
It happens when you talk about the sexiest men. What else we got? We got the Alec Baldwin situation we didn't get to touch on. That's
Nothing's gonna
crazy.
happen.
I haven't even heard much about that since. What's going on with that now?
I think the investigation's just ongoing.
Talking about Baldwin.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shooting.
I mean, just the rule of thumb is, and I don't know if it's the law, the way the law looks at it or not, is that the person who holds the gun always has to check it and make sure whether it's loaded or not. It's their responsibility once the gun is passed to you. It's not the person before you.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that'll factor in or if it factors in legally or not, though.
It's really tricky because he's pulling double duty on that production because he's a producer too, which probably opens him up to a lot more liability than just being an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, he can get sued two ways, right?
Yeah. And I know that a couple of people on the crew have come out and said a few things regarding that incident, and that there had been
support,
in support and in opposition, both.
There's another actor that worked.
And here's this is an interesting aspect of it. Is I saw one member of the crew said what is the most discouraging aspect in that scene there is it's not written in the script that he discharges the weapon.
Oh,
so
really?
That could get some people into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very interesting development.
I learned after the fact, way later, that it wasn't. He wasn't doing a scene when this happened. They were doing. They were setting up camera angles.
Test camera angles.
Yeah, testing camera angles, and why the gun was discharged in that situation doesn't make much sense either.
And pointed at somebody.
Well, I think they were trying to get that shot. Oh, hold on, let me get where you're actually pointing at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's hard to do.
There you go. Yeah, no, because
you nailed it.
Right is left.
Yeah.
You nailed it. It only took you like 30 seconds. You got it.
Yeah. I'm just,
Oh, Scott's immediate. He's been practicing in the mirror.
I've already figured the thing out.
You have to go the other way with it. Yeah.
This
is
Instagram
all, photos.
I do this. It's like I just want to show one eye.
That shot Tarantino made famous.
Yeah. I don't even know why there's a live round there.
There were live rounds on the set. That doesn't make any sense either. Like there should be no live rounds anywhere near a set.
But
no, yeah,
when they
part
shoot,
you know, I'd like to
when they shoot like a scene outside. Let's say there's a shot where they're shooting up a door or something like that to get into a house or whatever, just setting a scene here. Wouldn't they use live ammo for that or no?
No.
That would be all.
Never ever use live ammo.
I think movie guns, any gun that you use for a movie should never be loaded.
There shouldn't be any live ammunition anywhere near a film set unless it's on the holster of an officer that they're paying to provide security. That's the only reason live ammo should be anywhere near a set.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just, it makes no sense why it was there, how it got there, why it wasn't reported, and apparently, some of the crew members were planking, not planking, what they call it, plinking, shooting beer cans. And earlier that day, that doesn't make any sense at all.
That seems extremely irresponsible.
Beyond irresponsible.
It's fun, but
it's fun. You just don't do it during a movie, like at the job. You don't do that. You don't do that at work, right? Like in any job, It's just common sense.
And so I would imagine that the weapons girl,
The armorer.
the armorer, would have been responsible for switching those live rounds back out, and probably did not. And or
Like that, just
you know.
there's no way to qualify like why there were
Well,
live
now I can see
rounds
how the
and
bullets got there,
and
how
prop
that
guns.
happened, kind
Yeah.
of. Because I mean, they're out in the desert. Someone's going to come up with that idea, and then there'll probably be people who want to do it if they're killing time.
Yeah, but you don't take a prop gun. The prop gun should be in the safe to begin with.
And it shows me that there's not enough protocol to actual weapons being used on a set.
Right.
And wouldn't that kind of go to say that maybe Alec Baldwin was Alec Baldwin? Wouldn't that kind of say that he was either partaking in an event like that, maybe to pass boredom, or had to be aware of that event going on? So as a producer,
I doubt he was aware of that, but that doesn't mean
how would it be hard to think that you're on set and that's going on and you're not aware?
You may not have been on set when that was happening, because usually talent comes in, either they're in their trailer or they just bust them in right before. But I think they had been there all morning.
I don't know. Seems like at least word would have gotten back. Hey, look, these guys are planking out here, and maybe it's a bad idea. Or
at least
somebody that's on the scene.
These guns were used for this earlier today, so let's double check them, make sure everything
exactly. And then somebody should have said, why in the hell were they being used on a movie set? And then that should have gone right to the line producer. And the line producer should have found out who it was and fired them on the spot.
Unless the line producer was like, I'm bored.
It was one of them, yeah. Exactly.
Certainly, just because somebody's got a responsible title doesn't mean that they're responsible.
Yeah, but that's what should have happened.
But I would think that it's still going to come down to the people that were the bosses on the scene, which would have been the producer and would have been Alec Baldwin, to at least have somebody that would have reported that to him, or it would have gotten around, hey, look, there's some stuff going on that shouldn't be going on. Or, so there has to be a loss of communication somewhere. Because either it's going on, everybody knows it's going on, and it's like no big deal. It's passing the time. We're out here in the middle of the desert, bored, whatever. Don't tell anybody. It's somebody's doing this, and nobody's telling anyone that it's happening. I don't think that it can be an in-between. So either it's happening and people are not paying attention, which is kind of hard to believe. I mean, if you're firing out in the desert and there's not much going on, I would imagine somebody's hearing that's not involved. Or everybody's involved doing it. Now, I would wonder, would this have been done maybe so that the actors... Now, I will say this. I will shed some light. Scott's going to laugh at this. Jansen Nichols was a co-star in that movie from Supernatural. And he's in that movie. Yeah, he's in the movie.
Jensen Ackles. Okay.
And he said that he himself asked now I'm putting words in this is what I believe he said, if anybody wants to go double check it, but that he asked to actually shoot live rounds to see how the gun reacted so that he could properly act with the gun. And I guess on Supernatural there's a lot of guns. That's probably something that they did. How does a shotgun fire? Okay, now this is what you're going to have to do to make it look real. And he said that she was very professional, very safe, very much took him out, loaded only so many rounds, unloaded those rounds, did not take a whole box of ammunition, was like, go to town, but that she was extremely careful with him. And that he did shoot live rounds because he wanted to see the kick of the gun and reaction against that. He knew how to use it. There should be
live rounds on the set. That should not be.
I'm just telling you what the actor who was on the set.
Yeah, that should have been a giant
apparently
red flag
somebody
right there.
has to okay that, though. I mean,
you can do that. You're not going to do it on set. There's that famous footage of.
No, I mean, I'm sure they.
There's that famous footage of Keanu Reeves on the gun range preparing for John.
Yeah, I'm sure he was taken somewhere away from the set. I don't think he shot up the set, but he was probably taken, 300, 400, 500, whatever feet away to. That's my assumption on this. But he says that he, asked to shoot live rounds because of course, he's from Texas, and I'm sure he's familiar with firearms. That he wanted to just see how this gun reacted because it was an Old West gun, which probably fires much differently or would fire much differently than your modern guns today. So I think you just want to see kind of, okay, how's this shoot? And if I was to reload it, how am I reloading this thing? I want it to look authentic. And they went out, they did it, and he said she was completely safe, professional, did everything she was supposed to do. He had nothing negative to say about his experience, that she was extremely safe. So if that's something that is coming to light, that one of the actors on the scene is saying, hey, look, I asked if I could shoot live rounds and I was able to, and nobody gave me any problems about it, and that person was really safe with me. Obviously, there's some use of live rounds on that set, really. They're using live rounds somewhere.
And they have enormous issues then. Because they're
and maybe that will come back. Maybe
I would say that would be something said for another day, but that should have been done before that day or scheduled.
Exactly. That should have been done offset. I mean, if
let me make sure that
like I know what Sam's saying. They probably went far away because they're in the desert and did it.
What's
but
the name of that?
To me, the big problem is in between there and Alec Baldwin, knowing that happened. Whether it was from that incident or another incident of just crew people going out and having a good time. The problem is in between there and there too. Biggest. I mean, knowing something like that happened, and guns need to be double and triple checked. Anything brought back within the work area, the workspace.
Oh yeah. I mean, just the idea of that, like I've run that by a couple of people that work on crews, and they're like, that's just absolutely insane. Like that, even that was something that was occurring. That's unspeakable.
It should be something that was scheduled. If they wanted to do it, go to a
gun
firing range.
Go
to a firing range the day before.
Okay, I apologize. I put some misinformation out there, and I wanted to double check. So this is what he said. This is the exact quote. I did misquote him. I went on set and they asked me, what gun would you like? And I was like, I don't know. And the armorer said, do you have experience with guns? And I said, yes, I do a little. And she says, okay, well, this is how you load it. This is how we check it and make sure that it's safe for you. So she says, okay, I'm going to put some blanks in there. I thought they were live rounds. And I want you to shoot. I want you to go off. I want you to go away and fire off a couple of rounds towards the hill over there. And I was like, okay. So she put my belt on and put the gun there. And I walked out and she's like, just make sure that you pull the hammer all the way back and you aim at your target. And I was like, okay, I got it. So I apologize. I did misquote. I wanted to make sure I corrected that. It was not live rounds, but it was blanks. But his experience with her was that she was extremely safe. And that she went through safety protocols with him. It sounds like very extensively.
Well,
and actually,
it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird that they're doing that the day of shooting too. It's probably something that they should already be familiar with by the time they show up to set.
Maybe, schedules. Who knows? I don't know that this is is this a major film? I don't know that it is.
Well, I think that's one of the things that's at issue here is that filming time has been cut in half basically from what it used to be.
To get movies,
they're filming in 3 weeks now, and so everything is at 2-3 times the pace it used to be, and so everything is rushed through. 20-day shooting. That's. I mean, so now Apocalypse Now went on for 9 months of shooting. To put that in perspective. Maybe even.
But we have a co-star that is saying, yes, I shot blanks in a safe way with the armorer. So that has to say that, why, if he is being asked, if he's asking to check out this gun and see how it fires, and she's giving him blanks, how are live rounds ending up there? How are live rounds being put in guns on the set, like you guys are saying? So it's interesting because, like I said, I misquoted. And I want to correct that, but it does seem like that even when he wanted to work with the guns and kind of check them out and test them out, which I would understand that. that he was using blanks for it, and he was told shoot it at the hill. Don't just do it right here. So it seems like there's some safety protocols that the armorer was taking with people. So does the armorer hand Alec Baldwin that gun? Does Alec Baldwin just go assume a gun has blanks in it and grab it?
Well, from my understanding, the chain is armorer takes gun from safe. First of all, gun is in safe all the time. Nobody should have access to the prop guns ever. The armorer takes it from the safe, make sure it's clear as they pull it out of the safe, load the blanks, and then check to make sure they're all blanks, and then hand it to the AD. The AD also checks, calls it a cold gun, and then hands it to the actor. That's how it should go.
That's the actual way it's supposed to happen, or is that what you think?
That's what I read is the actual way it's supposed to go. And then, and one thing is they had the prop guns laying out on a cart, so that's an infraction right there. They should be in the safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I would say definitely because of this, things are going to change when it comes to weapons on the set. But
yeah, they might just do away with it.
Weapons?
Just do away with blanks, yeah.
And just use like
CGI,
digital muzzle flashes,
which will suck because
you don't get the kick or anything.
You don't get the kick. Tell. It's not, you're not going to get like a gunfight like Heat or Open Range.
Well, let me ask
you
this.
Can tell when they use digital, and I don't like it at all.
Let me ask this though. I mean, of all of the movies that have been shot with weapons, probably in the millions. I'm sure we have Brandon Lee.
Every other movie. That's
Brandon Lee.
80% of movies.
Seen, these poor people have been shot. Well, Brandon
Bruce Lee killed the same way his son was?
No, Bruce Lee had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Oh, did he? Okay. I remember hearing that right after it happened, and I've just always believed it, but I never questioned it.
No, Brandon Lee was killed by a piece of shrapnel
from a blank, wasn't it?
That was in a blank, yeah, which was terrible. Yeah. It's a piece of metal that basically,
I remember hearing that,
1 in a million chance that's going to kill you. Yeah, so his was really strange too. But I want to say on the Brandon Lee situation, they did everything right. It was not anything because nobody, I don't believe, got arrested for that.
So it was the scene where he was. Yeah, it was close-up shots, a bunch of them from different directions. Because it was when he was walking across the table and people were underneath the table.
Right. It's when he makes the joke about Jesus and then they fire him up, basically, from all angles. And one of those guns, when it fired a piece of shrapnel that was in the barrel from a previous scene and lodged into his brain.
It was, it was, and I think it was loaded improperly.
Yeah. But I don't know how you would load that improperly. Maybe the blank was loaded improperly. But
the blank was loaded improperly.
Or maybe it wasn't cleared. Maybe it wasn't cleaned. Maybe the barrel wasn't cleared out. Anyway, it could be a million things. But it seems like you could make these guns without a barrel and just the blank and just add the, you know what I mean, for the effect, and then just add the flash later. But anyway, I'm not an expert on that. But yeah, my point is, after millions of movies being made, we have, as far as I know, 3 unfortunate deaths that have resulted from them out of millions of movies. Now that there's some that I don't know about, I'm sure, but it seems like it's a relatively safe protocol.
I believe
no one should die, but it seems like if millions of times this happens and everyone's safe, that the few times that they're not safe is part of the unfortunate risk factor of probably doing this. Like, you gotta, 99% chance of not being killed using blanks, but there's that 1%. And unfortunately, after millions of movies, we have a handful of people that have been killed using blanks. I just wonder whether or not, when you look at the whole of how often this is done, how many movies have been done doing this, do you really need to change anything, or do you really just need to punish the people who screw up and set an example of don't do this on your set, or you're going to go to jail for life, or you're going to serve 30 years, or
Well, I mean,
you're
You
going
know,
to
we
ruin your
don't work in
career.
this business anymore.
you can look at
Right.
that, the other way too, of how many times, there have been, incidents versus how many times there haven't. And of the millions of rounds shot on thousands of movies, I have never ever heard of a live round being on a set.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
seems like
that just
you know,
seems so
it seems like a mistake. There's a
wildly
mistake
irresponsible
here.
that, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There seems like there's a amount of irresponsibility. Who is to blame for the amount of irresponsibility is what's going on right now. How do we figure that
How
out?
do we figure out
You know, did
who?
Alec Baldwin just go grab a gun and blow? We shouldn't have line rounds on the set and fire it
I
off.
mean, you're
why are you even
first of all,
firing at the camera in the first place?
you're making a Western. You're making a
I
Western.
mean, who knows?
So,
Who knows?
there's going to be a lot of. I mean, I imagine there's a lot of gunfights. Or
you're not even supposed to point an unloaded weapon that you know is unloaded at someone.
anybody. No, I've known that since I was a kid. Everybody has.
Yeah. But is it different when you're an actor and you're used to that, and you're used to safety, and you're used to those things, bullets not being in guns? Like your whole entire life is a bullet not being in a gun, but you're firing them all the time. I mean, in movies, we can say, hey, you're not supposed to point a gun at somebody when it's not. In a movie, they do it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we see people get shot in the head in movies where somebody used a blank. I mean, we can say, yeah, you're not. Yeah, of course, that's the standard. But in a movie and an actor who does this, it's quite common that they point these guns at people. That's part of the whole thing. Unless we're using trick camera angles, but I doubt it. I mean, they're shooting people that have blood packets that explode and all this other stuff. So, did the DA or the assistant, did he go run over there and skip the armory, and she had not put the gun up yet?
No, from my understanding, she handed it to him and he cleared it. But he said in an affidavit that he cleared it, but he didn't check it.
Well, who's responsible then? Him, right?
Him.
I mean, he should clear it. But I have a feing he's not going to throw himself on the sword and say, hey, it's all my fault. It's going to be somebody else down the line.
I would personally, I mean, if I were Alec Baldwin, I would, especially considering it's going to be a revolver. All you got to do is.
Here's a great question.
Very easy.
He should be required to check it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Everyone
a great question.
Who touches the gun.
Should Alec Baldwin be responsible for checking a gun that's been checked, to his knowledge, twice already?
Yeah. That's going to be the legal argument that.
I mean, but do you understand why maybe he didn't?
Ignorance.
I mean, we believe that these standards happen in movies, and Wick has been on the scene. I mean, people see the standard happen, and people. But I'm sure there are moments in every trade and profession where, Alec Baldwin's case, not making excuses for him, I'm just saying in Alec Baldwin's case has been checked by two people. We're in a rush. Let's just do it. Let's do a test fire. Boom, somebody's dead. And he's like, holy crap.
Well, where he's liable possibly as an actor is the fact that he was not the script doesn't call for that. That's a very interesting, if that isn't.
Unless they decided to add a scene, right? I mean, maybe
they
decided
it can
add
be
a scene or change something.
They can say that it wasn't in the script, but people improvise on the set all the time.
Yeah, so, I would think that would not matter so much. Like, well, let's do this scene. I mean, he's an actor.
But if it's his idea, I don't know. It's never happened, so we don't know what's.
It'll be interesting.
There's no precedent to. And say who's.
Do you think, regardless, let's say Alec Baldwin is not to blame and is cleared, does he ever act again? I think this is going to be pretty traumatic.
He'll probably act again. I mean, this was
You
kind
think
of
so?
like, yeah, this kind of seemed like his little pet project to break back into films because he really hasn't done films since 30
Yeah, but
Rock.
this is a pretty big. I mean, you killed somebody,
Yeah,
whether or not it's your fault. You know, I mean, he could have checked it, and there was There's 5 blanks and one real one. You know, and when he looked, it was 5 blanks he saw. There's that one he
and
didn't. Maybe he
yeah,
went through 3 and was like, "Oh yeah, we're good." You know, I don't know. You know,
I would be super paranoid about it personally.
yeah, I would be too. But I've also not been acting as long as he has. You know, and I think sometimes those actors are just around guns. They don't know a whole lot about them. They just get them and they point them
And
and fire them, and they get paid millions to do it. So
it had been a traumatic day. Apparently, the camera crew had walked off, and people were probably anxious,
yeah,
and they were
for
behind
sure,
schedule, and it was their, the
a
whip
lot
was
going on.
cracking. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I hate that. You know what? A lot of people don't like Alec Baldwin. Nobody should go through that, though. I'm sure that he
No.
did not mean to do that at all. That's terrible. That's terrible to have on his hands. It's terrible to have on the hands of everybody that was involved. It's terrible for the people that were harmed in this and killed in this and their families.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I don't know if we see anything change. I think it's a lot of talk. You know, like, oh, we got to change things, but I think they'll look and say, look, this is the chain that had to happen, and it didn't happen. And when it doesn't happen, these things go down. Here's a warning to everybody else doing movies from here on out. You see what happened here? It can happen where you are. Make sure you check it. Make sure if you're going to, and there's going to be a lot of actors from here on that are going to be like, yeah, okay, let me go through all these bullets real quick.
Yeah.
And just this situation happening
Well,
can
just
cause
think
a
of
tremendous amount of awareness.
the famous bank robbery scene in Heat.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It goes
hell
on for
yeah.
like 7 minutes. Can you imagine the number of blanks they went through? And
Think
every
about
one of
all the
those were
WIC
cleared.
movies.
Yeah,
Every one of those
they're all
WIC movies,
cleared.
there's fire, there's guns going off everywhere. You know, and it looks like Reeves has really trained himself in handling weapons. So he's probably somebody that you hand one to, and he's gonna go over it a couple of times with a fine tooth comb. Because I think he's a thoughtful person. B, I think he's actually involved himself into working with live ammunition, which I think is probably good that he has. And maybe more actors need to involve themselves in working with live ammunition to really understand what they're holding, what kind of damage it really does. But, I don't know. It's sad, man. I kind of think Alec Baldwin will be done. I think I think it's going to be tremendously heavy for him. I think he'll
It'll be
recluse
definitely be
himself.
difficult.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be difficult to jump back in it. I guess elephant in the room. We're finally done with this Kyle Rittenhouse thing. I know it's political. We're not going to get into the political thing of it, I hope, but that's crazy and wild. And I don't know. Did they have any? They just had somebody crash through a deadgum Christmas parade there. Did y'all see that before we went on air?
No.
Yes, I did. I did see that.
They're having a Christmas parade in Kenosha, and somebody drove their car through the parade and I think hurt or either killed some people. What is going on in Kenosha? I've never even heard of this place. Now it's like ground zero for violence. What in the world? I mean, that's insane. I mean, the riots and the shooting and now this and those poor people in
nothing's
that
really
area.
happened as a result of the trial. That
The
him being
verdict.
innocent. Like there hasn't been riots or anything.
I didn't think there was gonna be.
There was 80 people that walked into a Nordstrom with crowbars and just like looted the place. Was that something that lash out at the Rittenhouse verdict?
I guess.
Did y'all hear about that?
Yeah, I did.
They
just walked in. I think one person died.
I think
or maybe only two people were injured. I think actually, and that was it, or 3 people.
I understand backlash from things that happen that feel and
it was like 3 white people.
Like,
so who
oh
cares?
man, it's multiple deaths and
in the car crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. How many are now? This is a Christmas parade, and somebody drove their car into a crowd of people at the Christmas parade in Kenosha.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott. You know, why do you think there's not any riots?
Because he killed white people.
Possibly. I didn't think there
Nobody
would be
cares.
any. I don't think there should have been, in the fact that I'm a believer that yes, people are found incorrectly guilty all the time, but I'm a believer in the system that, and it doesn't happen this way, and I know that, but people are innocent. The whole idea of the justice system and the court system is to prove somebody guilty, not to prove them innocent. I told you guys in private, I thought the prosecutor had a terrible trial. I didn't think it was a good trial at all for him. I thought a lot of the witnesses did not help
Well,
him. And
there was too
I
much
thought his
video.
closing argument. Well, yeah, I think that they tried to.
There was really no case.
Well, I think they were trying to more work on the prior video end of things, like before the video starts, is what was going on, based on what we've talked to people saying. So I thought their closing argument was great, which was, and I was fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to watch the trial every day because I could just minimize it on my computer and kind of keep up with it. It was a really interesting trial, and if anybody wants to, it wasn't boring. It was never at a point where it ever got dull. It was a really intriguing, captivating trial. And like I said, it's a lot of time, but especially if you can go back and watch like the last 2 weeks on YouTube, it's a really, really, really interesting trial. But at the end, the prosecutor tried to say, look, if we can just prove that he instigated anything that may have led up to this, then his defense doesn't stand legally. We just have to prove somewhere that he provoked some type of thing with this gun, and then his, personal defense case is out the window. And I thought that they did some good work at the closing trying to make that argument. I thought they did a good job with it. So when it and honestly, the defense, I thought their closing arguments were terrible. I was like, you're just reiterating I guess they felt pretty strong, like you said, Scott, in what people saw anyway. I guess they felt like that was strong enough.
Yeah, oh my God. And Rittenhouse getting on the stand, which I couldn't believe he did, but he answered every question right.
I think with that,
he came across as someone who was who hated the fact that it happened.
I think that the fake tears thing was a little unfair. That was a full-blown panic attack to me.
Well, if you killed somebody, that's pretty hard thing to live through. Then you have to watch the video again of you doing it.
That was, everybody was like, "Oh, fake tears! He can't get himself to cry."
That's not easy. That is not easy to do.
No,
that's a panic
these are just people who
attack.
already decided that he was guilty, and they weren't gonna believe anything else.
I'm a firm believer in juries. I think that the jury selection is approved by both sides, and it's in the hands of the jury. And if the jury says this is what happened, at some point, now I understand the outrage when something's building up to that, but once we go to court and once a jury sees something that are your peers, there are people who live in your city, there are people who know of the situation, and they have a lot at stake in that decision. And I just think when a jury makes that decision, they're not always right, but when a jury makes a decision, they make what they feel like is the best decision, which is, in this particular case, not that he's necessarily innocent, but there just wasn't enough to prove that he was guilty. There was enough for them to prove that he was, defending himself. And that's what they made the decision on. to find him not guilty on all the counts. And, what kind of system do we live in when we don't trust each other to make decisions in that situation where they're privy to information we're not? They're hearing a case that we're not hearing fully. And they're in the courtroom seeing how people act and their emotions and how they speak and whatnot. I think we got to give more credit to juries than just when they don't decide what we think they should, we just get mad. I mean, it's fair that they don't always decide the thing. And trust me, there's been people that have been arrested and tried by jury that didn't do their crime and they got out 20 years later. And it's a shame. There is not a perfect system. But I just don't agree with this whole thing. I'm glad that there wasn't a lot of chaos, I guess is what I'm saying, because I think when a jury makes a decision, we have to respect it, or where are we if we don't? Who do we want to make those decisions then? Do we want them to be made in the media? Do we want them to be made by vote? Do we want them to be made by people who are not there to witness what's going on in the courtroom? I don't. I think a jury makes the decision that they think is best based on what they have. And after it's done, we have to respect that. And if if there's another angle to, if somebody's mistrialed, we got to do it again. Those things happen. I thought it was going to be a hung jury. I didn't think that it was going to be not guilty. I didn't think it was, I felt like a hung jury was coming, to be honest with you. Something made me feel like somebody was not going to decide, or somebody was going to go against the grain. But they all decided not guilty. So that has to tell me and tell people that these people privy to this information decided they have nothing to gain from it. Nothing to gain from him being guilty or not guilty.
Oh my God. There's all kinds of video of the
car crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame, man. I mean, that town just doesn't need any more trauma. I mean, it needs time to recover, and God, whatever side you're on, it needs time to recover. And this is just not what it needed. So that's just a shame. Definitely a shame.
That's horrible.
Now I'll be interested in this one that's going on in Brunswick with the Aubrey case. I'll be interested in that one. But I did you guys keep up with that one at all, with the kid who was kind of hunted down and shot in the middle of the street?
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, I kind of feel like a not guilty on that one's going to be bad. Again, though, it's a jury that makes that decision, and I respect what they've heard and what they know that I don't. But at the same time, man, it's hard to. But it's also, you don't make these judgments from the newscast. You if you're not a jury, you kind of miss out on a lot of things. But it's hard for me to see them not, hard to see them not being not guilty. That one is. Yeah. They're all tragic, but that one is. Man, if there's it feels very blatant. I mean,
that was the worst of all, including George. Even worse than George Floyd. I thought that was.
Yeah. It
happened
that
like
video
a
is something
week before. Yeah, those two. That dude just
jumped out
of the truck.
I don't like to jump into racial territory, but there's nothing good about a bunch of white guys in a truck chasing down a black kid in the street. There's just nothing good at that. That doesn't look good in any way, shape, or form.
No.
And then the kid to be laying on the ground dead. I mean, you can say, hey, he fought me for the gun all you want, but what are you doing in the middle of the street that's not your property, pointing a shotgun at a kid?
I don't see any.
That's going to be hard.
Any argument for that? I mean, I guess they were saying that he was responsible for some break-ins.
Hey, man.
Even if he is, you're still going to get charged with murder.
You have to catch them in the act. You don't get to say, hey, I saw him come out of an abandoned house that's being built. I mean, you know how many times I've walked into a house that's being constructed? I've done it a ton of times. Yeah, just to check out the floor plan. When me and my wife were looking for houses, we did it all the time. Here's a new neighborhood going up. Let's go check out the build and just kind of walk around. And we would. We'd probably, they didn't want us there. And they'd have told us to leave. We would have left. But we're walking around all these materials and looking around, and oh, that's going to be a big closet. And this is kind of what's the price? What's the price point on these? Not to say that that's what he was doing, but kids all the time go into houses that are being constructed. Certainly doesn't mean that you are the one who robbed all these houses. And even if you were, there's ways that this gets handled.
Yeah, you can be.
And that's not it.
You can't be judge, jury, and executioner.
That's right. That's right. So that one will be interesting. But I do. If you like legal stuff, definitely go watch the case. It's on YouTube. You can watch the last 2 weeks. It is laboriously long, but it's all interesting. I never got really bored watching it. All the witness testimony and stuff was really interesting to watch. But whether I won't give my personal comment on it, but I'm glad that there wasn't riots, because I do think we need to learn how to respect a jury's decision on these things. I mean, what do we have, right? If juries make decisions and they have to second guess their decisions out of fear, what kind of system are we living in? I mean, maybe the prosecution's not always fair, but I like to think a lot of trials are. Maybe they're not. Maybe I'm privileged. I don't know that, but we got
There's
a problem.
a gun the gun that went off at the Atlanta airport the other day.
Yep, the guy was on there.
Did
Did they
about
catch him?
that?
Yes, I heard
Well,
about that.
no, it was an accident, they said, but then I read what happened. Apparently, his bag went through the X-ray. They pulled it aside and wanted to open it up and take, because there was something that was prohibited. They wanted to take it out, and the guy reached in real quick because there was a gun in there, and it accidentally went off. But the guy went running, and everybody started panicking. But then they were announcing over the intercom, "This is not an
active shooting,
not an active shooter." Accidentally went off.
Yeah,
so I don't understand
Yeah,
how
what
this all
kind of
plays out.
imbecile
It
tries
didn't
to-
really explain anything beyond the fact that he reached in, it accidentally went off, and he ran. Other than that, it just went into the mass hysteria at the airport. Everybody running out.
What kind of idiot would try to go through security with a gun?
I need more explanations. There's got to be, but that's all I was able to read. I didn't check today, but
yeah,
I saw it on the news.
You gotta know.
I got the sound turned down, but I saw the video on the news just now.
Yeah, you got to know that that's not going to work out real well. I mean, people don't take guns in your carry-on luggage, please.
Well, yeah, that's
Don't
what
take
I don't get.
guns at all. There's no reason for you to travel with it. Oh, you're not going to do any good anyway with it.
No.
All right. You guys got anything else before we get out of here? Anything you guys want to talk about?
Well, we can cover Seinfeld next week.
Yeah, it'd be kind of a strange transition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
from
So
topic
the thing is, I'm not a Seinfeld guy. We'll talk about it next week. I'm not a Seinfeld guy. These guys are. They don't understand it, because I find other things that are Seinfeld related hilarious, like Larry David. And I sit down. I said, I'm going to watch it. It's on Netflix right now. And I said, I'm going to sit down and watch several episodes. And I did. And I did not find any of them funny. And so Scott shared a clip that I have not watched still. I'm going to have to bookmark it so I can go back to it. And we said I'm going to watch it live on the show and see if I laugh, because it's supposed to be hilarious. And so I'm supposed to see if I'm going to laugh. And if I don't, then there's no hope for me, apparently, with Seinfeld.
There's not really anything funnier on that. I
just don't think I like I don't think I like the characters. I don't feel like I'm drawn into George. I find extremely annoying.
George is
Elaine
hilarious.
I find annoying. Gary is just blah, and Kramer's funny at times. I just don't think I care for the actual characters. And I think that's why I just don't have an investment in laughing.
I don't know. George gets more neurotic, I think, after season 5 than he was.
Yeah, he gets more. George is Larry David.
Yeah.
But
he, it's just his spin on things is just funny. And then you have Jerry Stiller, all these side actors, characters that make appearances occasionally on the show.
I mean, just
I've seen
Festivus.
Jason Alexander. I've caught Jason Alexander like laughing in a scene at Jerry Stiller several times. He'll put his hand up like this, where they didn't cut it out.
What is Festivus? First, the airing of grievances.
Yeah,
I think
there's the airing of grievances,
and then feats of strength.
Is absolutely
I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying. I watch it when I'm sitting there on the computer. There's no laughs. And you know what? My wife likes Seinfeld, and I got to be honest with you. When we're watching it now, she doesn't really laugh. And I'm like, is it? So it's not just me. And she's like, no, I guess I've seen it before, whatever. I'm like, I've never seen stuff. I just don't think it's that funny. But I'm going to keep trying.
What big episodes have you seen?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, she says, try this one, try that one. Oh, I actually went through a list of top 10 episodes, and none of them made me laugh. And I mean, like, that's not me just trying to be cool. Like, I wish it was funny.
Yeah, so I guess you watched the contest.
Comedy.
You watched the contest and didn't laugh.
Yeah. I don't know, guys. I just don't think I like the character.
I don't know. I guess I like it. I like the things that they observe and point out, and they're always things that we all observe. But we don't point out because it would hurt somebody's feelings, or I don't know.
Yeah, and Curb Your Enthusiasm just takes that a few steps further.
Oh yeah,
Curb. Yeah. I think is one of the funniest things.
I think Seinfeld was better than Curb. Huh?
I think Curb's one of the funniest things I've ever watched.
That makes no sense.
I laugh at every episode. I laugh. I know.
I
know, dude. I know.
They're the same show.
It is the exact.
That's the whole
same
thing.
Humor.
Like, I want to express that the reason that I do want another comedy to watch. I would love to have a comedy.
So when you watch the contest and they see the naked lady across the street in the window, and Kramer gets up and just does that and walks out, comes back in like 30 seconds later and slams his money down. He's like, I'm out. That doesn't make you laugh?
I'm out.
The way he slams it down.
I guess it was just expected, maybe. I don't know.
He goes that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I like the characters, and so it's hard for me to find them funny. But I'm going to keep trying. I keep putting it on.
This makes no sense.
Every time
it's
I sit
blowing
down,
my mind out.
Time to waste.
Because everybody that wrote The Office worships Seinfeld.
Love The Office. Probably my favorite comedy of all time.
That's their main influence on their comedy.
I like how their humor, like it, as opposed to today's comedy or sitcom, they feel like they have to explain and point out why what they're saying right now is funny. Whereas they'll just say something and it's referencing like something that happened 4 shows ago. And won't even bother to tell you why they're saying it. Huh?
There's so many comedies right now that I try to watch that I don't think are funny, and I don't understand it.
It's like
I will never understand the Big Bang. I will never get the Big Bang. I don't understand.
The problem with the Big Bang was when they all got girlfriends, and that was what was cool about Seinfeld is they never all hitched. They all stayed single. And
did you see the low flow showerhead episode?
Yeah.
Oh, they don't feel like they're themselves.
Yeah, because in there, all their hair is.
I'm not Kramer.
I have to go back and watch something. I would love to have another
Kenny
comedy.
Rogers Roasters when they build the kit or the the Merv Griffin set.
I was just about to say I watched it today. The Merv Griffin set in Kramer's apartment. Anything with where Kramer, the episodes where Kramer and Newman are like scheming something together.
It's always just incredible. Yeah.
It's possible that I've just skipped around what would be funny to me. And maybe what's funny to the masses is not as funny to me. I don't know. I have just really sat down and just watched episode to episode, and I haven't gotten that far, but I just haven't laughed yet. I mean, we'll keep trying though. We're going to talk about it next.
Did you see the Jay Peterman reality tour?
I don't remember. I might have. I'd have to go see.
I haven't seen that episode.
I mean, if it's on a list somewhere.
It's you don't remember Peterman, Elaine's boss?
I know Peterman. Peterman's Elaine's boss.
He gets a deal to write an autobiography, and his life is too boring, so he steals all the stories from Kramer.
Oh,
puts them in his autobiography.
Elaine's ghostwriting it, right?
Yeah, and she steals it, I think, to make it better. And then Kramer rents a bus and goes to the Jay Peterman reality tour. And he's driving around New York, proving this stuff happened to him.
Yeah.
I had to watch that one. I haven't seen it, but we'll do it next week. We'll do it next week so we don't ruin all this. I had fun. I don't know. Will we do next week with Thanksgiving? We'll have to see. There's
It's
a lot
like
going on.
3 days
Family
after-
comes in
yeah.
town. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, maybe. All right, cool. I hope you guys have a great week. Hope everybody out there has a great week. Thanks for watching. I guess say bye, guys.
See you later.
See you next week.
Yeah.
There
Hail
you go.
Seinfeld.
All right, everybody, have a great week. Have a great holiday. Everybody enjoy their holiday.
Yeah, happy
We'll see you
Thanksgiving.
soon. Happy Thanksgiving. Dukes of Blather, we're out. Have a great week, guys. Bye.
See ya.